Hello, and welcome back to Minotaur Hotel. We're gonna be continuing with this lad. Yes. But why is the master allowed to do this? Remain quiet. Look good in brown fur.
Is that so? This is the color Master Jean picked. He found it the most unassuming, and admitted to me that he always envisioned the Minotaur as brown-furred. That has been quite a common occurrence over the centuries. Each lord has his own vision of what I was supposed to look like. Oh, pardon me. I did not mean to lay doubt on your judgment, Master. Your will is obeyed without question. I'm honored with your choice, Master.
Asterion heads to the kitchen to prepare your dinner. Oh, okay. Asterion waits patiently for you to finish. He eyes the window behind you, looking at the moon and the stars shining on the desert road. You finish your meal. Asterion goes to pick up your dish, as usual. This time, you left a big chunk for him to have, and he smiles as he heads to the kitchen. You bid each other goodnight, and then head to your respective bedrooms for the night. Okay. Yeah, that looks fine. That looks fine. Kota. Okay. Oh, right. We can just skip. Yes. Huh. I assume a lot of this is going to be similar. Okay.
I myself am from the Mediterranean, far away from here, so you can rest assured that all guests are welcome, no matter where they come from. I should also add, I can see you are a dragon. Enchantments do not work here. But worry not, that is allowed here. All who are lost are welcome.
A place for wanderers, indeed. Okay. Luku, please. Okay, this is starting to get ugly, but you can't think of anything to say to keep it from getting even even uglier. Once more, you can only watch and wait for the train crash to end. Asterion, however, is not so riveted. Kota bats Luke's hand away with a growl and opens his mouth to retort. But before he can, the Minotaur steps forward and places a hand on the dragon's shoulder.
Mr. Kota, please calm yourself. As keeper of the hotel, I offer my sincerest apologies for Mr. Luke's behavior.
Luke lets out an insulted squawk, and both Asterion and Kota ignore him.
Allow me and Master Josh to make it up to you ourselves. If you'd like, I can show you to your room, and you can get settled in with no further difficulties. Thank you, Mr. Asterion. But that won't be necessary. I can find my own way to my room.
The dragon brushes himself off, and then gives the sulking griffin standing nearby one more glare. His lips curl as though he's looking at something absolutely disgusting. Okay.
I'm sorry, my lord. Pardon me. I don't know what's going wrong with. What's wrong with?
Okay. The Minotaur doubles over in a renewed fit of laughter. Behind you, the door lets out a click no louder than a squeak. You turn around and find yourself... Oh! It's a hotel. Okay. His lower lip trembles, his nostrils flare with each exhale, and his intact ear twitches as if electrified.
I am fine here. Mr. Luke is still working, and I cannot leave him. That will not be necessary. I will obey, whatever is your will. Still, could I be allowed a few minutes to have dinner first?
You both walk away from Luke and leave him to his tasks. Okay. You haven't eaten? It would be best if you brought food to the table with you. Eat it with the others. If we lose any more time, they'll go to their rooms.
Very well.
Excellent. Dinner it is. Now, what do you say we take it one step further and have a drink? It's a special night. The hotel's reopening. Let's not mince words. Wouldn't you say the occasion calls for some wine? Before you finish speaking, he's already picking up a pair of glasses.
Yes, a drink now would calm my nerves a great deal.
That'd be good. You seem pretty tense. Is something wrong?
No, I will be fine, Master. Let's go.
With food and drink in hand, the two of you return to the lounge. Heads turn in the direction and chatter dies down as Asterion presence makes the guests lose their train of thought. The two of you take your seats at the end of the table, close enough to be inviting to the hitchhiking couple, but not so close to force them to talk. Okay, I do remember that line.
Ever since the hotel was established, the arrival of a new master was a very professional situation. No one had to help me in the way you did. In fact, we used to have quite a pompous ceremony. It was more about becoming the hotel's lord than it was becoming my sir. I sat by the sideline. Assuming it all went well and the master had a merciful inclination, I would settle quietly under his command. And after all was said and done, they didn't need nor want me for company. I am a servant, after all. The less they noticed me, the better. It meant I was doing my job well. So, we didn't often exchange more than a few words per day. But it would seem the world and its people have changed much over the last few decades.
Yes, that's right. We have a lot of new technology, and maybe the people have changed as well. I didn't tell you about the internet, did I?
Well, I'm afraid you didn't. At least I don't recognize the name.
Okay. Man, I don't remember half the shit that happens around. Like, I remember the stuff that happens, but, like, it's been a hot minute. And... oh, God, she's the best. Oh, whoops. Ah. I grow stiff at the realization. Okay. He stares back at all the guests, all of the pairs of eyes fixed on the inhuman features that are now noticing how stiff he's become. His breath hitches, and he freezes as despair sinks in his stomach. When the Minotaur musters enough wherewithal to move again, it is as though his limbs are made of lead. Oppressed by the awful weight of the guests' collective stares, he can only twitch and tremble, raising his arms mere centimeters at a time. The tremors propagate like ripples across the surface of the pond, from his fingers to his arms, then to his stomach, and finally sinking like claws into his chest. Wherever the pitiless tide sweeps, the Minotaur's consciousness seems to trail behind like a swimmer, following the wake of a boat that had thrown him overboard. The bull's hands linger at his stomach, which heaves beneath his touch like a sea in a storm. He clutches it as though nursing a bruise, like he'd been punched square in the gut, and is now trying not to vomit. He retches a few times, gasping for air, and a few members of the assembled crowd back away to steer clear of the perceived splash zone. Among the students, one starts fishing through her purse for nausea medication, but is quieted by another of her peers. He gestures to the Minotaur's whole body shaking like a leaf in a gale, and sweating bullets like he'd run a marathon through the desert around the hotel. Anyone can see that nausea is only one symptom of a larger issue at play with Asterion's well-being, and throwing pills at the problem isn't going to help. But even so, one of the burlier volunteers to help restrain the bull if he should need to be medicated against his will. But by the time the tension peaks, the Minotaur's hands have reached his chest. The thick black nails that dot his fingertips, digging furrows in his flesh surrounding his sternum. His lips move, and his lungs aren't cooperating, as though each eye upon him were an invisible hand wrapping around his throat. He can only give strangled groans and whimpers in his attempt to speak. Whatever the reason, Asterion is terrified beyond the point of words. The tiny blue flame in his eye betrays it. It sparks once, twice in its empty socket, before darting around the room, as though searching for refuge in the eyes of another. When the Minotaur shambles around to meet your gaze, his face goes cold and distant all at once. Eyes wide, eyebrows high, lips parted like a deer in the headlights, paralyzed by the specter of onrushing mortality. Yet, he cannot die. It is an absolute truth, the only certainty to which he can cling throughout all trouble. His sentence and his imprisonment are inviolable. No matter how much time passes or how many masters come and go, his days are fated to be as endless as the labyrinth in which he will spend them. Nor does he fear death. He knows and longs for what waits on the other side, the fields of Affidel. His friends and his service to Lord Hades as a guardsman. He cannot, rationally, fear death any more now than he did when he offered his head to the Athenian man millennia ago, and was damned for meekness. Even so, mind and body are overcome. The Minotaur is swept away beneath the vicious undertow of trauma. His biology is his master now. It demands he believe that he can die, that he will meet a swift and calamitous end before his crowd of curious, well-meaning onlookers. He has no real agency in it, as always. Greta's voice is the first to break through the chaotic murmur, which has consumed the other guests. She, at least, is ready to take matters in hand without waiting for anyone else's approval. She prods the bull onward gingerly, as though a simple readjustment is all that needed for the gears for the Minotaur's head to mesh once more, as they should. For a moment, Ishmael even raises to his feet to hover behind her, looking half ready to come to defend if things should turn sour. But by his shifting eyes, it's plain to see that he really just wants to sneak away until the situation calms down. He too is held in place, as Asterion is, by the eyes of his peers. Are you okay? The words fall on deaf ears, like a knot of steel wool against a dirty dish. Greta's attempts to reach out only seems to intensify the merciless grating against the inner surfaces of the Minotaur's skull. The past receives him, and the memory replays again and again. The room spins like a reel on a film projector of Asterion's soul. Now, he is the stone, the ripple that distorts the placid surface, making the scene swim as the past crashes down upon the present. He drowns in a whirlpool of his thoughts, as if there's as if he's there again, on the most momentous night of his most recent centuries of life. A century of life. The players are all here, the master, a commonly young lady, and a faceless mob. All the old thoughts resurface, unbidden. It was a night like this when the devil was let loose in Master Clement. It had always been there, as much as it had been in any lost soul the hotel had hosted in those days. The purposelessness, grief, and general agitation. He was even kind once. He faults more innocent even trivial, by the backdrop of human suffering in which he lived. As the one-eyed man is king among the blind, so too was Clement among the shell-shocked, war-wearing refugees and veterans of the First and Second World War. He wasn't all there, but he was functional enough that he didn't need to be, so long as his brother was around. Master Jean alone could stem the tide of Clement's paranoid delusionism, and I don't know where my phone is. Unfortunate. Damn. Oh well. The ego of a broken man. But Master Jean was dead, and it fell to the lunatic to take over the asylum. Perhaps Clement tried in his own way to do as his brother had done, to ease the pain of his fellow man, and earn their respect. But each setback, each failure, was mere fertilizer for the madness to take root and strangle out all else. The love and admiration he sought were as doomed as venture as Icarus's flight, blinded by hubris, consumed with envy. Clement fell and dragged as many as he could down with him. In his hands, the power of the hotel's master was but a means to impress, a cheap parlor trick at most, to catch the attention of beautiful women. That night, a girl like Miss Greta rebuffed his advances. He had asked before, and she had let him down gently. He tried again, hoping in vain that his persistence would be rewarded. Then something snapped. As an easy hush settled over the crowd, the laughter was snuffed out at once, like a candle between two fingers. Then, distance started to close between Clement and the young woman. The Minotaur interposed himself and took the blow, and as he always had when a physical altercation erupted. The ensuing trauma saw them all accused of treason, excommunicated by virtue of blasphemy against the hotel's petty god, to face whatever suffering awaited them in the smoldering ruins of the European countryside. All except for Asterion. Such is his curse, such is the innocence of the master's heart, to which he is always subject. Outside of the Minotaur's head, things happen more quickly. Drawn in by the ruckus, Luke and Kota begin making their way through the crowd, seeking direction. One of them calls you boss, and the atmosphere shifts in an instant. As nobody is quite sure how best to deal with whatever has come over Asterion, all seem to agree that the current situation requires your intervention. By virtue of your office, you are not afforded the luxury of remaining a bystander. All eyes are upon you. Something must be done. The natural thing to do in such a crisis would be to attempt to calm down Asterion. Giving him a little TLC should perk him up, right? There is no time to ponder the details of what caused his panic attack. You've got an audience that clearly expects an expedient solution. Bolstered by the attention, you raise your hands and gesture to the audience to stay back. You've got this. The Minotaur seems to shrink at the distance as the distance between begin to close, though he does not step back more than a centimeter or two. His legs remain rooted to the ground. Even so, you reach out towards him. He turns his head and closes his eyes. Actually, I think I'm going to end the part here, so I will see you around, everyone.